What is up, YouTube? It is Theme Deck Thursday with Back to the Beginning, and our new deck that we've been, well, kind of our old deck in a way, but what we've kind of created here. I've learned a lot of things about it, but I haven't gotten enough matches since last week to really make any changes, and I've had very few opportunities to trade, and I'll spare you my sad ongoing saga of my personal life and my work and how busy it's been, because that's not really relevant to you. But what I'm going to tell you is I have learned some things, and that's what this project is about learning how your deck works, being objective, so on and so forth, learning to analyze your deck, find what works, what doesn't work through playtesting, and improve. I mean, that's kind of what Theme Deck Thursday is about generally, anyway. There are cards here that I've learned really work very well. Probably one of the best headliners in that department is Whiscash. Its Amnesia is so wonderful because any energy will support it. He looks good with a muscle band. You know, you can deal decent damage. He kind of feels like Seismitoad in that respect. That he powers up easily and his chip damage is good. He runs a lot of early game interference. A lot of decks out there I found are actually pretty crippled by the Amnesia because they tend to have either only one attack or only one attack that's worth writing home about. He's pretty amazing in that regard. And he only coughs up one prize when he's knocked out. And he's easy to evolve to. I'm never sad to see him. Speaking of things I'm never sad to see, Greninja EX, I'm always really glad to see him. Partially because he's some of the only real muscle damage dealing in the deck. But also his early game attack sharpshooting. You know, he's good as an active Pokemon. He's good as a mid to late game hitter with Aqua Blast. He just makes me happy. You know, he's always good news. So that's something we need to consider and think about keeping him and focusing maybe more on the themes that he supports. And like I say, Muscle Band, I'm always happy to see these. So these are things I'm going to be considering trying to improve and work on, and our future games and changes we'll be seeing next week will kind of reflect that. Cards I'm really thinking about, though, in terms of possibly removing them, Darkrai is one. He was in here because of his Dark Cloak and his free retreats for everybody, and I thought that would be a really cool idea, and he could be a hitter in the mid to late game with his Night Spear. But honestly, I haven't really needed the free treats very often so far, so the Dark Cloak's kind of irrelevant, and I feel like maybe while he's okay, maybe he could be something better for us. And I have a similar line with Hawlucha. While Hawlucha's done a lot more attacking and our extra double colorless energies from last week have been helpful in making our Moonsault Stomp a thing, and his ability putting up a little extra chip damage has been nice. There are certainly other Pokemon that do that and do that much better, much more efficiently than Hawlucha does. So these guys are both in question, not because they aren't necessarily good, but because they're not good enough. And what we're going to try to do is hopefully through trading, try to switch these guys off for things that'll be more useful for us. Hopefully, that's the idea. Because right now what we're trying to do is streamline our deck. We can pull wins, and we can even pull wins against competitive decks, believe it or not. But the problem is that we're trying to get more competitive. We're trying to get more wins. And part of that is taking out things like this that are kind of sometimes good, sometimes not great, sometimes just not enough. And other things that are really, one that's a big question mark for me right now is Milotic. This is the Milotic I really like to use, and we still don't have a second one of it, but even if we did, I'm starting to question whether or not it's even worth having that many slots in the deck. Because think, I mean, if we run 2 of this Milotic and 2 of the Feebas, that's 4 slots in our deck that might be something a little bit faster or a little bit more damage dealing. Because one thing we really need right now is damage dealing. We got very few Pokemon who can actually put out decent damage to our opponent and maybe even 2-hit KO EXs. So once again, this may be kind of a quality issue here. And another one is some of these extra add-ins like this Bouffalant. I actually had him in a match against an opponent who had a lot of grass Pokemon, and he just wasn't worth the time and the investment of energy. So while he was meant to counter something that could be a problem for our deck, he ended up just not doing the job well enough. And if we pull out a few more Pokemon, which we probably need to do, he might be a candidate that's up to go. So, as far as the rest of the deck goes, our supporter lineup has actually been very good, and I've been pretty proud of it, and it works out. And while I think a few of them could trade, and we may trade them out to get things that are a little bit more efficient, for now I'm pretty happy with it. You might not know from playing this deck that we've had as little as we have to kind of support it and get it together, and that we're only 10 episodes in, and we started from scratch, and we've had very few trades, and it's mostly just been random booster pack openings. So I gotta say, this has been a pretty useful deck, and next week we will have trades and maybe some product opening to go with, and making some last changes. Next week will be either the last episode or the next to last episode, most definitely, kind of depending on what we get done in the next week. So anyway, until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more Pokemon content.